Listeners, welcome back to Tales of Abundance. Why settle for less? I am out here with Dr. John and Anthony, as I guess is the norm these days. Welcome, gentlemen.
How you
Pretty
doing,
exciting
Randy?
day today.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about AI, and we've been talking about AI almost weekly for a while, and I definitely think where AI is going is leading toward abundance in the world, and I think we've talked about some of the pain points that are going to be there and worries about people getting jobs, but ultimately it's going to democratize and demonetize a lot of the things that are happening in the world. So we want to start out. We're gonna talk about how each of us use AI today, and I think all three of us use it fairly differently. John, do you want to start out with how you use it today?
I mean, we're using it all over. So, I mean, personally at home, we use it for planning trips and for meal planning and for any day-to-day question that you could possibly think of. I'm helping it with a lot of the content that I write inside my company internally for standing operating procedures, any kind of documentation, including how to help with performance reviews. So anything we can do to use AI, we use AI. We're trying to agentify kind of all of the small processes inside of our company, and then we use it extensively throughout our companies that I work with. And by extensively, I mean every single place we can find a way to make somebody's load lighter, we're aggressively doing that. So we've identified across two companies, 400 different opportunities to use AI, and we're now working through each of those. Like, how do you agentify each one of those little processes to make people's
Explain
light?
it. I'm not sure everybody knows what agentify means.
Yeah, it's like how do you take a process and I like automate it so that an AI agent is doing that process for you. And so you prompt it, it does its thing, and then sometimes you manually move it to the next process. Sometimes you automatically move it from one agentic process to the next.
Yeah, I think I've heard that word being bantered around a lot lately, and the first time I heard it, I had to go Google it and find out what it meant, and so I don't
Yeah.
know that everybody
It's
is.
essentially it's a series of prompts for an AI. So you have
Okay.
these AI prompts, right? And you have like you can give it documentation and a whole knowledge base, then you give it a set of instructions, and then you can prompt it. And we do all those things. We have a knowledge base for our AIs. We have some that are kind of standard knowledge base. We have instruction sets and how we create instruction sets for the agents. And then we have some kind of templated prompts that we use. And then we have kind of people have the ability to like unstructured prompt it. And now one of the things we started working on yesterday was like how to make a perfect prompt. So how to take someone who's not great at prompting and how to use a prompting agent to make for better prompts so the AI delivers on its promise more effectively. So I'd say that we're working very hard to push AI into the org chart of our organizations, but at home we're trying to use it for travel planning too. Like anything we can do to learn faster and get information and grab that information and process it faster, we're doing that.
Why don't you share the? Do you feel comfortable sharing the travel planning story specifically?
Yeah, I mean, we used AI to plan a trip to Japan for 2 weeks this last year. We used it to plan a trip to Antarctica for next year.
But you're
And
you're 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 underselling. Like, explain to the listeners to the extent that you're using it.
well, and this my wife is really the one who's done the hard work on this particular agent, but she's gone in and created a really extensive set of prompts and a Gemini gem in this particular case that goes through and gives it all of the background for our family, all of our allergy information, all of our travel preferences, all of our ages, all the socioeconomic, background, and all of our preferences around flights and hotels and all these things, and then all of the experiences we've had that are really good, and then takes us to a part of the world and says, here's the part of the world we want to explore. And then the agent asks us a whole bunch of questions like a good travel agent would, and it gives us massive amounts of information. And then for our trip next year, I've gone and now created an educational agent and said, hey, we're going on this trip to Antarctica. I want it to be fun educational for our kids who are, teenager to early 20s. And I want them to have a great educational experience and an age appropriate fun journal that would engage them so they could maximize the enjoyment, not just some kind of rote scientific education about the trip that we're taking. And so I'm creating this thing where I can kind of drip out to them like these cool anticipatory notes next year to kind of build the anticipation for that trip.
Okay. That's cool. So, and when you say you're using it in your companies, you have a person who works on, like, you do AI, and a lot of people are probably doing little parts or but more prompting, but you got somebody that's actually coding and setting things up.
Yeah, I think in companies, there's a couple things I think that people need to think through. I think there's a platform for AI inside of a company that should be set up by the technology department of the company, and that particular role needs to be hypersensitive to like regulatory issues, legal issues, and to set up the right safe environment for others to use AI. That I believe that kind of the vice president of the future is going to have to be someone who knows how to create these agents and these GPTs and custom gems and these workflows on top of that platform. And then I think everyone else in the company is going to need to know how to prompt things as a part of their role. For anybody that touches AI, prompt engineering is going to be a part of what they do. And so I think there are going to be some entry level roles where all you do is grab a templated prompt and run that prompt. And then I think as you become more senior in an organization and more experienced, you're going to have to be better and better at prompting and engineering those prompts up to the point where when you're an officer of the company, I believe that it'll be part of your role to create those custom gems in the world that we work in. And we're going to put all of that already is showing up on our org charts for our companies.
Okay. Anthony, how do you use it?
Well, it's really evolving for me. It started out, you know, where do I buy a new suitcase at the domain to today I look at it for me as kind of my Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-all in terms of information gathering and guidance and so forth. Of course, I'm
That's gonna be a
doing
real
all the
problem
things.
for me in our relationship, by the way. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
have,
think so.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
be replaced very quickly.
very quickly. Exactly. So, but it's changing the way I think, and it's taken down a number of barriers in terms of my skill set, and specifically, I am now a spreadsheet expert, where before I would grind over an Excel spreadsheet to get data in and constantly making mistakes and so forth. Now you literally just throw data into the chat bot and then tell it what output you're looking for, and voila.
So
I do
hold on.
some
When you say
consult.
you're a spreadsheet expert now, that means you're saying you give it the data and you have it create the XLS or create the spreadsheet file for you. Is what you're
Not just create the spreadsheet, tell it what I'm looking for.
right.
So if I'm analyzing data on purchase behavior of a population, I can ask it, give me the frequency of a particular zip code. What is the average ticket in that zip code? How many times was a purchase made in that zip code? Compare it year over year, month over month, quarter over quarter. Things that in the past would take hours to put together and analyze. Not only do you have the backup of the full spreadsheets, but you have the answers. And yes, you have to go back sometimes and know what I meant was this as opposed to what I'm seeing here and so forth. I mean, it creates tabs, it creates new columns. It's just it's a walk in the park.
Right.
And then in terms of document management,
Hold
you
on.
know,
Before you go to document management, I want to go back before it
okay,
because I'm going to forget. You
okay.
said something earlier. You said it's changed how you think. Can we unpack
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, I'm not fearful of going down a rabbit hole. I've got a very powerful tool. For example, the way I think, I got a legal document I have to review. In the old days, you read it and you interpret it, or you send it over to a lawyer and he tells you, the ups and downs of it and so on and so forth. Now you plug it into, and you should always use more than one. You plug it into an LLM, and ask it what this is what I'm worried about. What would happen if this happened, if that happened, and the answer comes, depending on how big the document is, in no time at all. In comparison to I'll get back to you tomorrow, or I'm in court tomorrow, so I can't review this document. I'll get back to you on Thursday. So it's changing. I'm not afraid to get after it, and my expectations have changed tremendously in terms of how fast I'm getting answers. And now, and because of that, I can think at 100 miles an hour as opposed to 25 miles an hour in that specific instance.
So,
So
okay, but documents, or unless you're not done with that, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well, I did mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to dig into that.
yeah, and other documents and what does this mean? Or you're reading a book. I'm reading a really complicated book right now on economics, and there's a lot of stuff in there that my economics classes were 20 something years ago in grad school, and so you just plug in a quick question. What do they mean by this? Um, and you get a quick answer, and now you can boom, you can keep going. Where in the past you have to look it up and maybe interpret it, so on and so forth. So it's just changed. It's changed the way I operate. Much more confident. Um, my next phase is and I think this is going to be a problem for some people, particularly non-technical people, is how do I integrate video? How do I, can this really create a Facebook ad for me? Things like that I don't know how to do just yet, and I've been working on trying to figure that out, and it's not as easy as it seems. So
Randy, didn't we have a guy on a couple weeks ago, Randy, that looked a lot like Anthony, who said AI was just a bunch of crap and it wasn't going to actually uphold any promise? Was that there was a guy just like you
No, he had
who?
that.
no, no, no,
He
no,
had
no.
he
Hold
had
on.
that in a discussion, but by the time we got to the podcast, he'd done research and he changed his tune.
That's right. I
Well,
remember
hold
that.
on a
That's the way
second.
it went down.
What I said was to the audience is I still don't see the economic boom from a headcount perspective. From John, you talked about having a VP of AI inside companies. As you were saying that, I'm thinking, do they really know what problems they're going to need that they can solve with AI? Or are they just going to be throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks? So that's where I was a few weeks ago. I still am to some extent. Now, where it goes, we'll see. We'll see. And I think it's going to be constrained by. I'll use the automobile mechanic as an example. If you give me a '68 Mustang, there's a pretty good chance I can change the points, plugs, and condensers. Maybe do a valve job. Wrench on that car. You pull up in a car, any car created today. There's not a mechanic from the '60s or early '70s that's going to be able to get into that car without re-educating themselves and learning about new equipment and
Sure.
diagnostics and so on and so forth. So right now, I feel like that '60s mechanic on AI, and I want to be the 2025 mechanic, but I think it's a pretty damn big leap, and I got to sort that out.
Well, that's 65 years of technology, in all fairness, right?
Yeah, it's true of all innovation, right?
Yeah.
You have to learn it, but how difficult this is going to be is a question mark for me. And how many people have the intellectual capability to do it, or even have the need to do it, right? You know, uh, you know, answer this question. This is hypothetical. What percent of people only need the fundamental LLM to really make their life easier? They don't need it for any other reasons other than the things that we've already talked about: spreadsheets and recipes and travel and
All right. Let's.
who is this person and so on and so forth.
Well,
John took you down a rabbit hole, but let's stay on how we're.
well,
I
Randy, I want to hear about you too, because you're usually an early adopter more so than me and Anthony. And so let's turn the question to you. Like, what are the things you're doing with AI? Where do you feel like you're ahead? Is there any place you feel like you're behind?
well let yeah with how we use it. I mean, I started out using it writing a book and doing. I wasn't an author, right? And I ended up ultimately writing most of the book, like 90%, and AI wrote 10. But I will also tell you there's a 0% chance I could have wrote the book. Or not zero, but I would have never done it without AI to help break the writer's block and a lot of other things and give me ideas. And sometimes it would just write things and I'd go, and I wouldn't know what I wanted to say until it said it. And I knew I wanted to say something different. So just as I guess almost like a muse, it was really helpful. I use it for marketing materials, but the ad copy, video, pictures. I use it. It's replaced Google for me for the most part. I say I Googled something earlier, but in all likelihood, I looked it up on Grok or Chat GPT or something. I mean, I use four of the main paid models. Um, I'm using it in my company. We're developing services in the company to do everything from drip marketing, reputation management, AI call answering, etc. Uh, I needed a dog food recipe, and I wanted a dog food recipe, and I didn't want to do the math to multiply it by so many days. I put it in, and I told it. It created a shopping list. I bought it, did it. I mean, literally, I built a fence in my on my property recently. I used AI to calculate the materials that I needed. I mean, there's almost endless uses for it at this point, right? I mean, it's there's almost more things I'm using it for than not using it for in some weird ways. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
leaving out in the interest of time. I don't know, dozens of others. By the way, the clips for people that listen to us on YouTube or follow us on social media, like those little short clips, are all done with AI. I mean, I go through and I look at them, but those are all
It's
AI.
well, it's kind of like asking somebody where they use the internet today, right? I mean, that's a little bit what we're asking about. Like the internet gets used for like everything from how I track my biorhythms when I sleep to how my lights get turned on and off to like it's literally permeated the vast majority of technology in my life, and I think that's where AI is headed as well.
Yeah. Well, and how we use it, I guess I'll go first on this one because I already said it a little bit. Like for me, or I'm sorry, not how we use it, how we learned it is what I meant. How we learned it. I had played with it a little bit, but I wanted to know more, and I joined a How to Write a Book in 5 days seminar, and less honestly about writing a book and more about learning AI. And I spent 5 days trying to break it. Now, I had a book at the end of 5 days. It was pure crap. I would never have published it or put my name on it. But then I took that and I just kept learning and learning and learning and really learned a lot about my big thing there was prompting, and my big lessons were speak in this tone, speak to this goal, speak to this audience. And I used that not only there but in my business and other things. So that's a lot of it for me. And I've watched videos and read articles and went to seminars and things, but really just for me digging into it and using it for something and trying to break it is how I learned it. So, John,
Yeah.
how did you learn how to use it?
I think it was really similar. I just started using it for small things and started using it for bigger things and bigger things. And for me, one of my big learnings was like, how do I jump into different models? Like when OpenAI created a new model, I learned that I have to prompt this a little bit differently. And then when I jumped to Gemini, it was different again, and now with Claude, different again. And so, and somebody asked me today, like, which AI are you using? Are you using Claude? Are you using Gemini? Are you using OpenAI? And my answer is yes, I am. I use all three of them, and I'm figuring out which one works best for which thing. In the same way that I have a pair of pliers for one problem and a wrench for a different problem, and it's like a knife for a different problem. And it's not probably ideal, but I think different AIs are well used for different problems.
Okay. Anthony, how about you? How'd you learn how to use it?
I just, it's like riding a bike. Get on it and start to figure it out. I mean, I even asked you a question early on, how do you not, how do you tab down so when you hit enter, it doesn't start asking the question? I mean, it was ridiculous what I didn't know when you first got, and there was no instruction manual. I guess I could have asked it for an instruction manual, but I'm not sure that would have yielded the results. I think it's just one of those things you got to play with and find what it's useful to you for. This is a utility. It's like having, some people like the thermostat at 68, some people like it at 74. And how's your spouse going to use it versus how you're going to use it in business. If you're a sports nut, you're going to go down one way with it, and maybe use it for your fantasy football choices and things like that. So I just think it's your world. The world is your oyster here, and you can see the abundance this brings is the abundance of information across infinite subjects,
Yeah.
and it is just it's a inverted funnel. Um,
But for
to me,
all of
it's
us, it
amazing.
hasn't. But it hasn't just been we tried it ourselves. I'm thinking this through. Like, did we just use it ourselves? But the truth is, we talk about it. Three of us talk about it pretty regularly, and we're trying to learn from each other all the time. Like, we're constantly asking each other questions about this, that, and the other thing around AI. And then I think the two of you probably also have other people you talk to about it. I know that I do. And so I think the reality is this is interesting, at least to the three of us, and we're all trying to lean in and ask people what they're doing with it and what they've learned. And I've my wife at home. My wife uses it all the time, and so I have the benefit of chatting with her, and we show each other prompts. And some of my prompts are just such utter crap. It's like, what did I do here? And
But the thing that's, what at one point when you would have a bad prompt, it was easier to go back and reprompt. And I don't know if that's true. It's probably still true, but now, like, being able to just say, "Hey, all right, I should have given you this information," or add that to the prompt and do it again, seems to be very effective now. And it seems like the feedback, it's getting easier and easier to prompt. Maybe it's just me getting more comfortable, but it seems like it adjusts and corrects and can be corrected easier than in the past. Would you say that's true?
I can't weigh in on that. I don't know. And I mean,
I just feel like in the past when I gave it a really crap prompt, I had to go back and just scrap that, edit that, start over, and now I can say, "Oh, I gave you a crap prompt. Here's why."
that could just be
yeah,
that your very nature, because you're not sometimes a crystal clear vocalist, if you will. John, I'm sure, because he's John, really takes his time and really thinks through what the prompt is going to be. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, so I'm not having that same problem.
yeah, believe it or not, I kind of one of the things when I had one of the guys that I work with look over my shoulder, he said that I kind of intuit my way through it. So opposite of the way I normally react, I just kind of I prompt and then I sharpen, then I sharpen, then I sharpen, then I
Yeah.
sharpen as a way of me learning. And what I find is that I have a better starting point each time. But there are times where I get far enough down the thread where I'm like, oh man, I really just need to start over.
Yeah.
And those are the times when I usually ask the AI to summarize my intent for me, and then I take that kind of new intent to a new thread,
Yeah.
and sometimes to an entirely new AI.
Yeah. I've asked the AI so much that lately, like even prompts, when I make a prompt, I'll ask the AI, like, what other things or what other types of information should I have in this prompt, or what questions do you have for me? And it'll ask me questions. I'll give it, and I'll say, great. Now take my prompt, that information, and write me the perfect prompt for,
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
outcome or whatever. Right. So, okay.
yeah.
Um, well, let's talk about the future. Where do you think it's going in the future? And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but where do you want to use it? Where do you think it's going? How do you see implementing it moving forward? Because we're all using it, but what's next?
Anthony, you want to start first?
Well, for me personally, I think the discussion's irrelevant, and maybe for us in total, in terms of what we're hearing, and the noise on the street is that in order for this to be a good business for these AI companies, they've got to crack the code on some big problems. You know, in health, how does it evolve in the medical profession? It's there now. It's got its foot in the door, but what really is going to happen down the road? Probably a lot faster than we think in terms of helping us become a more healthy society, both in prevention and in treatment, um, problem solving. There, and I won't do this justice, but the 13% of the most difficult math questions that have never been answered have been answered by AI. What does that mean in terms of the impact on things like security and so forth? And all things are a math problem. And what does that bring to us? Does it get us to the point where people where the machinery is smarter than the human? Where does it take us to the point that it won't need to be prompted? It'll just do things. So I just think it's accelerating like crazy. Everyone's trying to make money on it, which generally speaking is a good thing. And then there's the other side of this that, man can be a problem. And so can AI be used in a way to mess with our electrical grid, our transportation system, our financial system? Uh, who
Well,
knows?
it's already being
Um,
used for like advanced phishing, right?
mhm.
I mean, I've never seen more sophisticated attacks than I'm seeing today.
Well,
Your password is a math problem,
Yeah, that's the thing that they'd be concerned about.
right? So your bank account is at risk.
your bank
How
account
much
has
risk?
your debit card has a 4-digit pin on it.
Right.
It's not
I'll
that
have to
complex.
figure it out. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Um,
So step
so
one, cancel all my debit cards today. That'll be the first thing that I do. I mean, I don't want to dive into the blockchain problem to see if blockchain solves some of this problem. I do have a couple other things I would add that I see this a slightly from a different angle than Anthony. I don't know that I disagree with anything you've said,
go
but
ahead.
I think that for me, there's a big domain expertise problem here. Like I see people using AI in their own domain exceptionally well, and it's very hard to use AI outside of your domain exceptionally well because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know how it's misleading you. And I see this most commonly like in medicine. When I'm sitting down next to Dustin, I know behavioral health really well. He's an expert in medicine, and I can't catch it where it gets the medicine wrong, and he can't catch it where it gets the behavioral health wrong. And so, but we can each catch that inside of our domain. And that's a real problem because how do you take someone like my son who doesn't have domain expertise in anything yet? And how do you teach him domain expertise when you're relying on people with domain expertise to use AI, not giving young people jobs in those areas? We're going to have a real gap there that's problematic. And I don't know that AI can solve itself there. And I don't know what that means for the career of the 20 somethings and the teenagers of today. So that's number one. I'll pause there so Randy can ask questions if he wants to.
Well, I just, I think I told you the other day, John, on a call, or maybe you weren't on there, but one of the products I'm working on in my company is an AI voice answering system, initially meant to be used after hours, but if it's good enough, we can use it all the time. I got to tell you, right now, I'm not sure the average person would know. I don't think most people would know it was AI, and I think even people that suspected it wouldn't know for sure. But as I kept, it would come out and I'm like, okay, we got to fix, start out with these 5 things. And then it was 4, and then it was 2. And I kept being like, oh, here's something else I test. And I kept trying to break it and kept changing it. And at some point, it was last Wednesday, I realized, oh, I'm being really nitpicky. Like I have a much higher standard for this AI than I do a human. And if a human was this good, I would be letting them take calls. This AI is better than most of the humans in my organization. It's ready to be, not that it still can't be improved, but it's ready to go. So I'm less concerned. Now, you're dealing with medical things in people's lives, right? I mean, here I'm talking about booking an appointment. It's not life and death. But I think that a lot of times we have too high of standards for the AI than what we have for humans. We have higher we expect it to be perfect, where we have some grace for humans not being perfect
It
as much more.
it depends on the problem, but my concern stands, which is if you stop giving people domain expertise, then you no longer have operators with domain expertise. Like that's a problem. The other thing I would say is that, well, Anthony, you said everything's a math problem. I think, I mean, every math problem is a math problem, but I talk all the time with people about the fact that AI solves intellect problems. It doesn't solve wisdom problems. And there's a big part of our brain that doesn't get solved by an intellectual processor. And so I think that's a good thing for humans. I think that makes AI a better tool for us so we can lean deeper into that. But I think the future is knowing how to lean into work on the work front, at least, where we have wisdom work that needs to be done by humans and intellectual work that will be done by AI. So I think that's like a real future conversation people need to think about.
Well, it'll be interesting who's right. I agree with Anthony that literally everything is a math problem, including wisdom. We've had this debate before, and I don't know, maybe you'll be right, maybe I'll be right. I think AI will develop wisdom, and in fact, sometimes when I talk to it, it seems wiser than some people, in certain situations. I think it's
Sure.
already developing it, in my opinion. But, um, you know, if we can solve math, what Anthony's talking about, it means we I don't know. The implication from people smarter than me is that we basically become gods at that point. That we can
Well, at that
create
point,
anything we want.
at that point you get people that can maybe emulate wisdom, but I still think there's a difference, and so
I
we'll
hope you're
find out
right.
when we
Like
get there.
there's a point where if AI gets so good, right? Like what does it do to humanity? I mean, that's a real question. Does it replace us? Do we? I think we kind of merge with it, or we use it. And I'm not the doomist there, but there's smart people that are. So I I think also in the future, I think a lot of the stuff that's going, I'm very bullish on humanoid robots, and I think that a lot of what it's doing, whether it's driving cars, robots, drones, etc., all of that. I heard the other day that the U.S. military, or not the U.S. military, Palmer Luckey, I don't know the name of his company, but they've got fighter jets now that they're creating that are drone fighter jets that fly with the main pilot. So the main pilot is there, and he or she is flanked by like 5 or 6 of these drones that basically do all the fighting and take all the danger, and they're pretty much AI. Just they're like the best wingman ever, right? So I mean, I think there's a lot of that stuff, but uh,
Yeah.
I mean, how else in your companies? Like, what's the next step for you in your companies, John?
I'm worried a little bit about, like, I think AI is making it tremendously easy for small companies to innovate and go fast and catch up and do it cost effectively. I am nervous though. Big companies have data already in place, and that so I think speed gives small companies a real advantage, but data scale gives large companies a big advantage too. And I don't think many people are thinking about that or talking about
Yeah.
that. Like the amount of data that I don't have in a system already as a small company is a thing. And so I think that we're going to have to find ways to lean into the speed, where big companies are smartly going to lean into the scale, and that's going to be it's going to be a different playing field than we've seen in the past, I think.
Yeah, I'm hoping one of the next things that come in the future is more personalized AIs that are actually
Yeah.
they got less knowledge but more tribal knowledge. Like for a company, having a personal AI for that company is going to be a lot of ways much more powerful than being able to just plug into all of ChatGPT, because a lot of what it can
It's,
do isn't going to help the
yeah,
average company.
it's called a small language model. They're already, it's already a thing.
I know, but this is where there's going to be choices, right? Like there's
Mhm.
already reports that ChatGPT is their new version. It throttles you down. Like sometimes, even though you're on 5, it's using 3 because it's trying to use less bandwidth, and they're trying to move stuff. They don't want everything going to deep research.
Okay, so I got to tell you, did either one of you get the advanced Alexa Plus just recently?
No.
No.
I turned it on with my wife. We turned on Alexa Plus and we started using it. And it was like the new advanced version. It was slower. It was dumber. It made 10 times the amount of mistakes. It was horrible. We turned it off. It was terrible.
Is it because it has to be
So
Yeah.
trained?
no, my guess was they were trying to use older models and save some cost.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean that was my guess. I have no idea what really happened, but we turned it off immediately. But we're both pretty tech forward. Like we're pretty willing to
Right.
like train a model again. But I really think it was like, hey, let's see if they notice. Like that's what it felt like to
Right.
me.
All right.
Interesting.
Well, listeners, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back shortly. to continue with this and talk a little bit about 3D printing as well. Hey, it's Randy from Tales of Abundance. Is starting a business part of your journey? Do you have ambition but no clear path? Maybe you feel trapped in your current career. Do you want a real business that can produce $250,000 or more income for you and your family? We have an opportunity for a profitable business that can be part of your path to abundance. I want to personally invite you to see the proven system we've built. It's designed to give you that freedom and control you've been searching for. Visit premiumcabinets.com/abundance to learn more. That's premiumcabinets.com/abundance. All right, listeners, welcome back to Tales of Abundance. Why Settle for Less? Still here with John and Anthony. Haven't scared either one of them off. And we talked a little bit before the break about making decisions between even, ChatGPT is making decisions about which model and how much bandwidth. And Sam Altman had a quote, and it says if AI, so Sam Altman, the head of ChatGPT, had a quote. It says, if AI stays on the trajectory that we think it will, then amazing things will be possible. Maybe with 10 gigawatts of compute, AI can figure out how to cure cancer. Or with 10 gigawatts of compute, AI can figure out how to provide customized tutoring to every student on Earth. If we are limited by compute, we'll have to choose which one to prioritize. No one wants to make that choice, so let's go build. And
Hold on, keep reading. I want you to read the next paragraph too.
That's the rest. I don't know what you're reading. Continue then, John.
The whole blog, I can paraphrase the rest. I can't quote it up, but the next paragraph was, our plan is to release 1 gigawatt of compute every week from now until whenever. And so this was a sales pitch inside of his blog about how they're going to be able to solve both problems, not just one of them, so that you wouldn't have to solve one problem or the other. They'd be able to solve cancer and education within 20 weeks. That was the pitch.
Well, I hope that's right? But my point is with this, if we had to make that choice, what a wonderful choice to have, right? Like either one is a huge step forward from where we are now. And solving both, if Anthony's right about solving math, then we solve both and we solve all the other problems too, right?
When you wouldn't have to choose one or the other. You'd only have to, the only choice you'd have to make is which one comes first. Like that's
That's with the assumption though that the power, like we have, John, you and I talked about this a few weeks ago. I think Anthony was on the beach in Sicily, ignoring us, but power production, like power demand is way up, power production is not. And we had that chart, and there's people working on it, and there's smart people working on it, but there's a lot of, I think it is going to be a choice unless we somehow figure out how to, 10x, 20x, 100x the power generation we have in this country?
It's a temporal choice. It's a choice for a period of time, but like anything else with technology, you build one thing, then you build the next, and you have as much throughput as you have for technology. But I think that throughput's consistently getting wider. We're going to find more ways to create more energy. There's an energy problem. The energy problem will need to get fixed. And although we may not have direct line of sight to it, we haven't put up a nuclear reactor. Or maybe we've put up one or two in the last 50 years.
I think one.
Someone's got to fact check me.
I think one.
Yeah. But the government is looking into geothermal power right now, and that's a whole nother energy source that's, on a relative basis, untapped, as I understand it, which is not very much at all.
Well, but the constraint could also be, a NIMBY constraint, not in my backyard. There already Amazon, and I won't get the cities right, both Amazon and Facebook canceled permit requests for data centers, and one was in Wisconsin for sure.
One was in Arizona.
Maybe the other one was in Arizona, because people are concerned about noise pollution, their electric bills going up, not down, because these guys are, supply and demand. Adam Smith, right? 1700s. The more demand with limited supply, price goes up. And I heard some guys on a podcast talking at length about this, and they feel like the hyperscalers should be picking up the tab. They have the cash on the balance sheet. They should be picking up these tabs. And if they want to,
Instead of getting tax breaks, you mean?
instead, well, not it, they should just pay whatever they have to pay to keep the cost of electricity where it is today, so that they don't get shut down by local population. So there isn't a not in my backyard phenomenon, which is part of what happened with the nuclear power, that and the the Greenpeace type thinkers that thought it was an evil source of power. But nonetheless, it's not. Yes, there are going to be other ways, but it takes years to put in even these small nuclear reactors. It takes years to put them in. Now, China, someone told me, had 30 of them that they're working on getting done, along with their coal mines, along with everything else. So, they
You know
don't
what I
have the
haven't heard?
constraints we have.
I have not heard of anyone talking about a nuclear powered like aircraft carrier that's being decommissioned, being turned into an offshore data center. I have
I,
no idea that's a good idea or not. Has someone
I've
talked
heard
about
people.
that?
That is a plan, by the way.
Is it really?
No, that
That's
is a
so
plan.
it's okay.
Yes,
All
yeah,
right.
for sure. But
And what would they do? They just put all the chips on the ship and
I,
then
I don't know. But I mean, just for power generation, I mean, they could just plug it into the grid, right? So, but
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think there's going to be interesting choices that we don't have to make today. But again, it's two good choices. John, I think back to, we were in a company where we'd have training classes, and sometimes more people would show up than you had room for, and you were like, well, that's a good problem, right? I got, it was,
I think there are choices that are real and present though for like the everyday AI user today, and it's about like which platform to use. Like,
yeah,
what do you choose to use Gemini or OpenAI or Anthropic. And so I live in a world where we're going to use all three. Like we're going to take all three of them and we're going to find a platform for us at Salesforce and we're going to plug all those things into Salesforce. But I think people are going to be, resource constrained from money and they're going to need to choose where they want to learn to use. And I think choosing the right model is going to be a thing that people bump into. So I think there are kind of the big choices you're talking about, energy and chips and rare earth minerals and all these things that are kind of national level issues that have to be addressed, and some of them even global. And then there are the everyday issues that individuals and companies are going to be faced with, small businesses, like not big business but small businesses, to survive. And you think about what Amazon did to the small business and it changed the landscape for sure. It shut some down. It opened up a whole new marketplace for their small businesses, but we're at an inflection point, and that's for sure. And so people are going to be faced with decisions, and not making a choice is a choice too.
so
Well, the last constraint, or another constraint, is going to be what business problems will people try to solve?
Mhm.
Is curing cancer going to be worth it from a business perspective? From the pharmaceutical company's perspective, the answer is no, right? Because they want to treat disease, they don't want to cure disease. What will people work on? People are going to work on things that make money, because they are living and breathing every day about their stock price. And if they don't produce, um, quote unquote, shareholder value is going to go down, and they're not going to want that, even though that might be the right answer.
the other thing
You
I
know,
think we need to remind ourselves is AI right now is very much where the internet was 25 years ago or more, where the internet was there, but there wasn't a lot being built on it yet. I mean, we have just, like, companies are just starting to build like layered companies on top of the internet and offer services. Like, this is a brand new industry that is a long ways from maturing, and I think that'll help, this growth and the scale as well. So,
But it's happening at a faster rate than it did 25, 30 years ago too.
oh, it's
God, yeah.
unbelievable.
I mean, 5 times faster. I mean,
I
Uh,
don't know.
I don't know the answer, but it's a lot faster. A
Yeah.
lot faster. So, all right, let's another thing. So we talked about AI a lot, and one of my things I kind of go into is 3D printing, and I recently saw this article, um, and heard somebody talking about it. But anyway, this will be real quick. But this is another exponential technology, right? Like, so this was an army, I believe a general. I'm not sure. I'm just going to go through this real quick. But on Blackhawks, they have an external fuel tank that breaks a lot, and they've been paying $144,000 per. In just 43 days, they 3D scanned it, did the prototype, did everything, and for $3,000 they replaced. And now they can just print these whenever they want for, I think it's under $3,000 each time. But from 144,000 to $3,000. And the one that I thought was even down here further in the article. So there is basically a knob, but part of an assembly, I believe, on a Blackhawk that was a $47,000 to replace. They 3D printed it for $15. So I think that's another thing that we start getting AI applied to robotics, 3D printing. I mean, it just the future.
I love that idea, but do you want to get onto a helicopter with a $15? I guess if it's even a doorknob, like I can't think of a single knob in a helicopter that used to cost 50 grand that now costs $15 that I'd be totally psyched about. There's other parts, my stand-up desk, I wouldn't mind that, or like, but
But
I don't know, man. Like
but
Have you ever been in a Boeing plant or a an auto plant?
I've been in an auto plant, not in a plane. I've been in a plant for planes, but it was not Boeing. It was the Eclipse plant out in New Mexico.
Anyway, we can do a deep dive on this. You would be stunned if you saw the manual workarounds people use on something you're driving 80 miles an hour down the highway. Okay,
Yeah.
or the do you not recall a Boeing plane having a door fly off the jet? And why was that? Because there were a couple of bolts weren't tightly secured
yeah.
on a relatively new plane, or
Uh,
relative, I
Is
shouldn't
this
say new
is
plane, but
But the $15
is it?
charge, John, is because, and we can do a whole episode on this, but in a manufacturing process where they have to make molds and they got to have an assembly line and there's just a lot that goes into it, they can use better quality materials and a lot of times better designs and 3D print them and
yeah.
do it cheaper. The price is not what's
Yeah,
representing
I think yeah, I
quality.
think it's important to hear like while a pencil may have $1 worth of materials, a pencil or a pencil might have 3 cents of materials. It has $1 price tag because of all of the other things it has to go through. And so that $15 part was probably more like a $2,000 part if it had to go through all the same regulatory scrutiny. But the point's still the same. The point is that 3D printing has the same potential impact on manufacturing that AI has on everything else we've talked about.
Well,
And
they'll
while
be
that,
interlaced. They'll be interlaced.
that's right.
AI will generate one way. It will go both ways. Can we do this? Can we do this some other way? And AI will get involved, help develop an answer, help develop the process. I think that's where it's a practical application for AI.
I love it. I just working in a highly regulated industry. My caution to my team is we're in a highly regulated industry for a reason, and those regulations they matter. And so, like the and Elon Musk is great about like, hey, regulations, unless you understand the regulator, and he tries to blow through a lot of that stuff. I think there's high consequence and low consequence regulation. I work in a high consequence regulation environment, and so I'm probably a
We'll
little
come.
more
We have to
conservative
wrap
here.
this up. We have a hard out here, but we'll come back to this. But I will say the primary places 3D printing is being used mostly is aerospace and medicine, and
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be problems. But this can be a future topic. Listeners, as always, download, subscribe, tell your friends, neighbors, etc. But also send us comments. Go on social media if you follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Give us feedback. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. If there's topics you'd like, we'd love to talk about that. And today, we'd love to know how you're using AI and where you think it's going in the future. So you can email us at talesofabundance@gmail.com or find us on wherever you get your social media. But everybody have a fantastic day. John, Anthony? Listen and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Click follow for more content like this, Or go to talesofabundance.com to join our community and get free tools.